Alright, today we're going to go through our 9510 series filter valve and show you how to inspect or replace the seal and piston setup. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to remove these 4 screws that hold the cover on. As you remove these, you do want to be careful. There are small O-rings. Everything on the surface here has O-rings that seal, so you want to make sure those little guys don't fall out. Once you get all these up, just carefully remove it. Here are the little O-rings. You can see that are on each one, so make sure you don't lose those. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to unplug the connectors from this just to remove this and get this out of our way. And as you can see, the connectors have been removed. These are color-coded, so you'll know how to put them all back in. They're all color-coded here as well. Okay, so the next thing you're going to need to do is remove these 2 little screws that hold this motor on. This is your drive motor. Once you loosen these up, you'll be able to remove that. These are the 2 little screws here that go into this. This is your drive gear. Go ahead and remove the motor. Then you're going to go ahead, and there are 4 screws that hold this black housing on. You need to remove that motor to get to this 1 screw down here. So there's 4 screws. Go ahead and loosen those screws up. Once those screws are removed, this is going to allow you to just pull this whole thing straight up like this. And you can just set that over to the side. Okay, the next thing you want to do is remove this clip here. This is your actual brine valve or chemical valve. You can just squeeze the tabs here. This will pop out. And as you can see, there's little latches here that line up with the deal here. Let me try to zoom in on that and get a better shot for you. So that clip I just removed holds this pin out. So what you'll do is you'll slide that pin out, and that'll allow this unit to come up. Okay, so this is probably the most tricky part of this. There's a little cam here, and you can see there's little feet in here, these little notches that go in here. So you've got this guy loose now. So what you want to do is pivot this thing, twist it around to where it comes out. Whoops. So this is the little piece that has the little deal that goes where the clip came out off the side, and then this is your actual piston. Okay, now on the top of the valve we'll have these 2 red clips here. We'll go ahead, these guys just pop out. This is going to allow us to remove this. And I'm going to go ahead and pop the clip out of here as well, just so I can set this down on the bench. Okay, so now you're down to your piston and your main screws where it goes into the valve. Okay, now we've got these 4 screws removed. We're just going to go ahead and lift this whole unit up. And there's your piston. You're going to want to inspect this, make sure there's no vertical scratches in there you can feel with your fingernails. And then these guys will pull out. These spacers actually fit together and look like that when they're together. So that's your spacer. And then you'll have a seal on either side of that. So you'll have that whole stack in there. You want to take those out. Okay, once you have all the seals and spacers removed, you should have 5 of these spacers, or excuse me, seals, and 4 of these spacers. So once you have those removed, and those are difficult to get your hand down in there on those, so if you get a little stick with a hook on it, it helps you pull them out. Okay, so once you've got those removed, you want to make sure you flush the inside of the valve and clean it. This is basically what your inside of your valve looks like. So go ahead and flush water through all of that, your inlet and outlet. This is where your drain line is connected. Make sure you clean all that out, remove that, clean all that out. And again, that's what that looks like. So you want to inspect that, make sure it's all cleaned out of there, get any grime or media that you might have got stuck up into the head there. Okay, so you can inspect your seals. It's basically this inside surface here that you want to inspect, make sure there's no tears. If you do replace them, you know, you go ahead and you have your new seals. Make sure you lube the seal up real well on the inside here. And you'll just reassemble it like that. You'll put the first seal down, then a spacer, and just stack them. Seal, spacer, seal, spacer. Okay, so this is what it should look like when your seal and spacers are all put back together. So I'm going to give you a shot what that looks like down there. You want approximately that much space between the top of the seal and here, and make sure your spacers are all the way down in there. And then we'll go ahead and reinstall the piston again. Inspect your piston, make sure there's no deep scratches in it. If there are vertical scratches in it, you're going to leak through your seals. And we're just going to go ahead and we're going to slide this back down in. I like to go ahead and put this piston all the way down. It helps it. And then go ahead and reinstall your 4 screws. And as you're reinstalling this, you want to make sure you kind of cross torque these bolts because you want this thing to all go down even. Okay, I did want to mention you don't want to over torque these. Don't use like a ratchet and get on there because you can break these pieces. So anyway, once you get that torqued down, everything's flush. Go ahead and grab your piston and move it up and down and make sure it moves freely. And did want to take the opportunity here, so your cam attaches here and here. These are the 2 places that it attaches. So now we're going to go ahead and reassemble. Okay, the first thing we'll do is go ahead and slide our plate back on. Now, what you want to make sure of, I've got this backwards in the vise now, so I'm going to go ahead and flip it back around so I can show you how to reassemble it the way I had assembled it. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and reassemble it. One thing you want to make sure is this little nub here that goes into your cam is facing the right direction, and actually it won't allow you to put it in the opposite way. There's actually a little notch there. So you're going to go ahead and feed this guy back down, and it slides up into the rails into this piece right here. Zoom in on that a little bit better. So now you've got your cam here. You've kind of got that floating down on there. I also wanted to mention, make sure that your O-ring seal is down here. And this guy's actually going to pop down here between these. Okay. Once we get that down, we're going to go ahead and put these red clips back in on the back side. Okay, these red things are popped back in. This is actually what controls or holds the control head mounting bracket to it. So those are popped back in place. This is nice and tight now. Okay, again, probably the trickiest part here, you want to take your cam, there where the notch is here, and that's going to go down over. Let me zoom in on that. That's going to go over your little notch here, over your piston. So you're going to put that guy down. You also have this little gear here you're going to kind of hold down, and you're going to rotate that. Once you get that over and caught into this groove down there, You want to make sure, go ahead and put your little plastic piece, and you've got your cam on this side, and it's going to go into the top here. Okay? That like that. Okay, now you want to use a little pair of needle nose pliers and go ahead and put your little pin back in here, in your piston here. And then you're going to put your clip back on. There again, make sure, try to get this in focus so you can see it. The little clip here slides in thusly, so you're going to push this down on top and kind of hold that down on the top, and then just clip that clip back in there, and that pops it together. So that pin basically holds it, that clip holds that pin, and the pin keeps them together. So that's how that works. Okay, so now you got your cam together. It's working like that. Both things are going up and down. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and reinstall this housing around our cam here. Again, this was the 4 screws. So we'll just slide this guy down in here and line it up. And go ahead and tighten up these 4 screws here, here, there, and there. Now that we've got the cover on, we're going to go ahead and reinstall the motor. So again, this is, you're going to have to get your gears lined up here. And what I like to do is I'm tightening it up is push this up and down and make sure it's free and it's not catching on it. So okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this push button down in here, this gear disconnect. Make sure that's got an O-ring on it where it seals. There's also an O-ring on top of your little selector switch, your manual selector switch here. So go ahead and make sure you've got that on. Then we're going to go ahead and make sure we have our little O-rings here on these. And that's on those guys right there, on the little tabs where they screw into it. So the first thing we're going to do then is we'll go ahead and reconnect all of our connectors. And as you remember, we had this one here that was to the flow meter, and I'll show you, we'll hook that one back up in a second. But these guys, again, they're all color coded. You can see them all here, they're color coded. So we'll just go ahead and plug those guys back in. I try to give you a close-up here. So we get the 4-pin white, the 4-pin yellow. Then you've got the red power. You've got the white 2 that goes to the motor. Then you've got the little white and the little yellow that goes out here to your controller. So once you have those in, we're going to go ahead, I'm going to carefully put the top back on. Okay, and we've tightened our 4 screws up back down here, so now everything's good to go. And that should do it. You should be good to go. Did want to mention one other thing. You also, if you've removed the head, you might want to get up in here and inspect this area here too to make sure you got all the stuff out. You probably want to do that and make sure you get that, as well as the inlet outlet. When you have that piston out of there and your seals out of there, just make sure you flush water all the way through it. You make sure you don't have gravel or sediment here that you flush back up into that cylinder. Make sure you flush it all this direction. So anyway, I hope that helps. Talk to you later. Bye.